Stick It, 2006. It's about a rebellious team gymnast, Hailey Graham, who is forced back into competition after legal trouble. Under a new coach, she relearns teamwork and passion, challenging the strict world of elite gymnastics with her own style.
Well, doesn't she have to homeschool?
Mina, tell the Foxy Moron I got my GED when I was 15.
Joanne, Hailey got her GED when she was 15.
What's with all the closed captioning? Okay? I'm not mute.
Hi, I'm Allison.
And I'm Joe. And this is
Queer Cinema Catchup,
the podcast where we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. And as Allison mentioned, we're talking about the 2006 movie Stick It. And who are some of the main actors in this movie?
Stars Missy Peregrine, who you might know from Rookie Blue and FBI. So the famous Jeff Bridges, Vanessa Lenges, and Nikki Suhu. Joe, before we start, I just think I need to do one thing for you. Which
What?
is
Wait, how do they just do the rock on?
oh my gosh, Joe.
That scared the fucking shit out of me. Oh my God. I saw that out of the corner of my eye. I literally just thought like I summoned a demon because it's slightly like dark in my apartment too. Like, I was like, oh my God. I thought something was coming up from behind me.
All right, Stick It.
Stick It.
Had you ever seen it before? What do you think?
I saw it back in 2006, not in theaters. At least I don't think so.
Okay.
And I remember Missy Peregrine is very striking, and I thought her career was going to take off. She was in one other TV show that I watched all the time called Reaper. It's been so long since I saw it. This is one of my classic TV shows. I talk about how I, in school, didn't really care about schoolwork. I always just wanted to get by, not do too well, but not too terrible. But I remember going home all the time, and Reaper was one of those TV shows that I would download on my iPod video, and I'd come home and just like watch episodes of Reaper.
What was it about?
Missy wasn't the main character, but she was like good friends with like the lead character. They were all like early 20 somethings working at like a department store or like a container store or something like that. And their boss, I believe it's their boss, happens to just be like the devil and like will sometimes like intervene every now and then. And the devil's played by the guy from Twin Peaks, Laura Palmer's father. But yeah, so I was surprised that Missy's career didn't. I thought she was gonna like blow up. I was like, because she just like visually is just like
she's so
beautiful. But then I think she's mostly known now for like TV shows. And you mentioned like a cop show. Like I could totally see her being a cop. I don't know what of my own biases makes me say that, but she has like a very like.
It's just funny because she was so anti-authority in this
movie. That's true. Which we'll have to talk about that. Felt a little disingenuous or too extreme at times.
It definitely was. Like okay, just to give you some context, I saw this movie in 2006 as well. I saw it in the theaters. And I was pretty sure I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Come to find out when I Googled this movie, it's sort of a queer lady tell to love. And I guess I could see why as an adult watching it, why she breaks gender norms. She doesn't have a love interest. It's like, it's pretty queer. There's a bunch of girls running around in leotards are very strong, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I can see why queer girls might gravitate toward this film, but I absolutely love this film. I thought it was extremely well written. Like I thought all of the emotional, vulnerable beats. I was like, "Wow, this is a movie."
When you first saw it,
when I was 14, and I thought this was the height of cinema, and and watching it again as an adult, I still really like it. I am amazed that I liked it as much as I did because Hailey, the character, she's pretty rude throughout the movie, and her and her friends were kind of like gross.
What's up your butt?
What'd you say about my butt?
And I thought they were hilarious. And I'm like, I'm shocked because that's not how I usually was. You know what I mean? So I'm actually kind of surprised the movie got to me as well as it did.
So in 2006, you were 14, 15 years old. And Hailey's, is she like 18 or 19?
I guess so because she's about to go to, at the end, it's suggested that she might get recruited for college gymnastics.
She got her GED, which one of her gymnasts hilariously say, what does drunk driving have to do with education? one of the mean girls is like both like she's a like mean popular girl, but then also kind of like the ditzy stupid girl at the same time for a really hilarious combination. But yeah, I think I too remember watching it as a kid, and I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but thinking it was like this like edgy, like really like, I mean, I thought it was kind of like Bring It On, kind of like
It's the same writer
in that same. Okay, that's why. Kind of that same
or
nature.
director, yeah.
But there's something. It's not. Now watching it as an adult, there's like some. It's not quite a Disney Channel original movie, but there's definitely like a quality to it where I'm like, if there wasn't so much, there was like a little edge. Like she was a little too rebellious, and the music was a little too aggressive to be a Disney Channel original movie. But there's something about it where I was like, I could see this almost being like Double Teamed or Motocross. Like it was like in that
Yes.
world.
It had it has a kids movie vibe to it.
It's kind of like kids thinking of what like high schoolers or like people who just graduated high school are like. Whereas now through like our lens, it's like they still feel like little kids.
They do, even though they don't look like little kids.
No.
Yes. And I will say too that what feels cheesy as an adult, I can see why it works so well on children. So I remember as a kid, there's a big plot point in the movie where Hailey is this former gymnast who was incredible at her craft,
Mhm.
but then infamously walked out of Worlds, costing their team a chance to compete at the Olympics, I guess, is my understanding. And nobody knows why. It just seems like she's a bad girl who kind of abandoned her teammates. And they keep bringing this up. It's why nobody likes her at the gym. And she only goes back to the gym because she's gotten into legal trouble. And her dad makes a deal with the judge very unrealistically that she can get out of legal trouble if she goes back to train for gymnastics. And they keep bringing up the mystery of why she walked out of Worlds. And then they reveal about halfway through the movie that the reason this happened was because that day, right before she was set to compete, she found out that her mom was cheating on her dad with her coach at the time, and it kind of broke up her entire family. And what makes it feel like a kids movie and why it works as a kids movie is they take that, of course, vulnerable story, but they treat it very, very seriously. Like you mentioned the music. When that's revealed, it's her new coach and her have this like moment where he had no idea. That's why she walked out. And of course, that makes it all okay. She had a really good emotional reason for abandoning her team after all. It's very sweet and it takes the emotions you might experience as a kid seeing your parents' marriage dissolve very seriously, which is good for children.
Yeah.
But also for adults, it's sort of like, well, she did still like walk out of the competition. And she could have competed as an adult perhaps should.
Yeah. Also, another element of this movie that I really liked and was surprised by is you have like your typical sports drama or like I mentioned like Double Teamed or Motocross, like these like sports movies, and you kind of have these tropes that they're going to fall into. And what I was really surprised about this movie is like it's not necessarily about her like winning or getting injured and overcoming her injury, something to that degree. It was more about them like acknowledging kind of like the ridiculousness of this sport, the way that it's like the standards of it, and like coming together across teams to like work together to win. I thought that was kind of well done.
It's moving.
Like I feel like corny is too harsh of a word to use for this movie. Like it's like a step above corny. Like it's for
children.
It's for like children.
Inspire kids.
It's inspiring, and like I appreciate it for that. So like no knocks against this movie. I will say like as an adult, like it was definitely hard for me to like sit down and pay attention the entire time.
Oh, too. I was riveted.
Oh no, is this another Cruella situation?
I love we haven't done Cruella yet on the podcast. Thank you for reminding me.
Damn it. Allison, we were just like scrolling through Disney Plus a couple of years ago. And I was like, I've never seen Cruella. And I was like, she's like, I remember really liking Cruella. We should watch it. I was like, okay. And we're like watching it, and it was like really late at night, and I got really tired. So like I went to bed, and Allison ended up like finishing watching it. And then the next morning you were like, you didn't finish it. We need to finish it. Did you want to finish it? And you like, again, we like played it. And I think I did my thing where like I walked off. I was like making stuff, and Allison was again like riveted and just like watching the screen.
I love Cruella. I love Emma Stone. I love the themes. What can I say? I love a good costume change. But the end, for those who maybe haven't seen it, is very inspiring because even if it's a little unbelievable, because the girls are at competition, they've all, in spite of their differences on Hailey's team, kind of come together. But then one of them gets a big deduction on a really excellent gymnastics move because her bra is showing. And they're and she's so disappointed. And then Hailey kind of leads the charge and decides to, quote, scratch and also show her bra so that her teammate isn't alone in this mishap. And then she convinces everybody else to do it too. And then it goes through the different events where all of the girls competing in this contest decide who's going to win. And they even get the big bad, the mean girl that Hailey walked out on back in the day, who hates her, to participate too. And it's a very rah kind of female empowerment, but also just us versus the man kind of a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Us versus the rules.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah. And there's like a lot to say about like it from a queer angle too.
What is it about this movie that makes it a queer tell?
Can I turn it on you? I want to hear what you think, and then I'll tell you the truth. No, I'll tell you what I think. I just think it'd be more interesting hearing it from a guy's perspective, perhaps.
There's something,
and if you're like, I don't know what it is, that's valid too. But
I think the quality of like the movie starts off with her in like a hoodie riding bikes and like being like one of the guys in a way, and like
you're supposed to not know she's a girl,
which it's
because
so
her hair is covered.
But
it's covered until she's running from the police, and then it falls off, and her luxurious hair falls down.
But she's not even just like wearing a hood; it's like a hood that's like covering like just above her nose. Which she has the most like incredible nose. Like
she does. Her features are so like strong and striking.
They're like, this isn't a knock. She just like has a face, like it's a TV face. Like it's just like too perfect in a way that it's like it doesn't quite work for like movies, you know? Like it has to be. It's too like too symmetrical in a way. She's too beautiful.
Wow.
But yeah, why I like see it as like a queer film, which maybe it's not right, but it's like like this like.
Well, it's right.
Like not like the.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The goal of the movie isn't to like find a guy at the end. It's not her like pursuing a romantic interest. It's more about like her, like the battle that she has with herself and accomplishing what she wants and like having problems in knowing what she wants. And then also just like her rebellious nature, like all of it, just like she doesn't like seem to have the typical qualities of what you would assume a 19-year-old girl has, and kind of does kind of have like a like bro-y sports quality, whatever that means. That's kind of what I took away from it.
I think you're on the right track, and I'll give you a couple more. I'll kind of dial it down.
Tell me the real reason.
The real queer reasons. Okay. One, it is gender bending. You know, she certainly has, she in the beginning is portrayed as hanging out with guys, very masculine in nature, which, you know, is I think a common trope that might tip off queer women or coming of age queer teens that this could be a queer movie or a queer coded movie. We've got that going for us. We have kind of a rejection of social norms. There is no love interest, like you said. It is more about her own internal struggle, of course. Then we have her outfits in the beginning of the movie. She wears layered t-shirts, cargo army shorts. She does this all the time.
Rock on.
like what's going on there? There's something about the look. Okay, then we get to the actual gym. We got girls in leotards. We have Hailey getting into an ice bath with perfect abs. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something about the glance of this movie that feels kind of queer too. And then I would just say as the movie goes on, they have like the very feminine, not so smart Josie character who seems kind of like the villain, who's like oil and water with Hailey.
I have totally earned my spot.
Girls.
I'm practically Dalmatian.
Dalmatians are born with spots, they don't earn them, which is exactly my point.
Dogs are people too, Hailey.
Very nice, Joanne. Touché.
But as it keeps going, she kind of has her own arc where she ends up rebelling. Like her mom doesn't want her to go to prom. She wants her to only focus on gymnastics. She says no because she's kind of learned from Hailey to stick up for herself. But she never abandons her very feminine presentation or girly kind of airheady ways. And that is seen as a victory too, and not seen as less than Hailey's kind of tomboyish ways. And then I was reading this article before we started recording from Kira Deschler. And she pointed out that in a lot of gender bending movies, like say She's the Man, or I can't think of any others at the moment, often to kind of succeed or get what they need at the end of the film, they have to go back to the feminine presentation in order to kind of get to the end goal, like you have to conform, and that doesn't happen in this movie
Interesting.
either.
Yeah. Not having to conform to something in the end. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yes. And then finally, just the idea that all of these girls come together to say, hey, the standards of society or the standards of this competition are too restrictive and putting us into these boxes and not letting us be and not letting us like show you what we can do and who we can be in the fullest way possible is kind of a queer narrative. So I'd say it's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I think. Oh, and then the no love interest thing, which I already said. The fact that she doesn't really have a love interest. And in fact, it seems like she doesn't even really like she's got her two guy friends and Josie's like, "Why are they your boyfriends?" And she's like, "No." And she doesn't seem to feel the need to justify it.
No. Well, I liked that line in the movie too. Josie's the character's name.
I think so. I like maybe you just made that up. I'll Google it, but go ahead.
When Josie sees how Hailey interacts with those guys, she's like, "What? Like, how? Like something about like something to the matter?" Like Hailey just says, like you just like be friends. Like they're not like alien creatures. Like you can be friends with guys. You don't have to like be romantically interested necessarily.
There is another scene too in this where the girls they don't really see guys a lot because they're always in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of like, oh, what do they have that we don't have? And one of them says like lives, somebody says something else, and then Hailey kind of pops up in the background and says boobs, which sounds like something a lesbian would say. I don't know.
Because she's not a lesbian, right?
No.
But
it's like it's kind of like Bend It Like Beckham, you know, like kind of like they're not like written as lesbians, but like could they be? Maybe.
Time will tell.
No, Joanne, not Josie. Joanne.
And then eventually you were speaking to how Joanne like had him into prom and she ends up like telling one of the guys that she wants to go to prom with him.
But I really liked that dynamic because she doesn't change at all. She's still really demanding and kind of, to use a bad word that I'm using it, I'm reclaiming this word, like a little prissy, and he likes it. He's kind of into her energy, even though we see it as a negative female stereotype, you know, which I liked.
Yeah.
Too.
After that scene, the Twilight guy in front of the girl to his friend says she's a real bitch.
Yeah. But then
why did he do
Joe silence was full of judgment.
Why did he say that in front of her?
Because
which in fact made him the bitch for doing that's awful. Why would he? And then he was like screwing over his friend, right? Because he was like basically saying that we were both in agreement that we despised her because she's such an asshole. Well,
so my interpretation was that the friend Poot, I don't know why his name was that, but he was really into Joanne. Okay, I also remember as a kid, I think I regularly said that Poot was my crush.
Is Poot the Twilight guy?
No, the other guy.
The other guy, he's really cute.
I can see it.
He has like he kind of has like very soft features, and you love soft features.
But was it Poot or was it Hailey? Or was it both?
Maybe both.
Hard to say. But yeah, so Poot says to Joanne, like he's spending a lot of time with her in this kind of excursion they go on. And then the other friend, who's one of the brothers in the vampire brothers in Twilight, I think he's like sad that his buddy's kind of obsessed with the girl. Right. And she's being really like demanding. And I think that's why he says it and he shouldn't have. And then Poot kind of gets annoyed. And then Joanne's like, do you think that about me? And he's like, no. Well, I mean, yeah, but I like it. And then she doesn't really care. You know, I mean, she doesn't want, you shouldn't call a woman a bitch, but I think it is kind of speaking to how the movie's kind of leaning into these stereotypes, these like negative female presentations or way of looking at women and saying, actually, it might not be a bad thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing about this movie, like plot wise, I don't know if it's like necessary to go like beat by beat. I do feel like there were like a lot of like gymnastic performances that were really interesting. I also like was like, did Missy do these gymnastic moves? Because I swear there were like shots showing her face doing these backflips, but apparently she had a body double for.
I mean, that would be extremely impressive if you learned how to do. The whole movie emphasized how dangerous to gymnastics
I assume when I saw it as a kid, like I obviously didn't know like the depths of like stunt doubles or like gymnastics was like a stunt, but it's very obviously is a stunt because it's very hard to do. But it's like you mentioned how she like takes an ice bath and like is ripped. I kind of assumed at the time that she was like a gymnast first, and then like just happened to be a stronger actors were my assumptions. And now looking back at it, Missy the actor looks like a giant compared to like the like real gymnasts in the movies.
I had that written down in my notes.
Which-
Not a gymnast.
Right. An athlete nonetheless. Like she could be like
a soccer player.
Which is why like even watching it this time, I was like, maybe she did perform these, but no, I think for like gymnasts, like I think have more success when they're like on the shorter side.
Yeah, I agree. I noticed that for sure.
Yeah, what were some of the moments you want to talk about?
Does this movie not feel very 2000? What did you think? Like the phone, the bikes.
It is very planted in mid 2000s specifically, and I want to
the outfits.
I would like to. I just like transports me to that. I feel like to a time period that isn't represented very much, very well, and this movie like captured it so well.
And it was of its own time, which is really even more impressive. Did you wear two-tone? Did you layer your
Yes, in fact,
your shirts like that?
I remember that being more of like an early 2000s things. But I definitely remember in 2006, that was the time of the double polo.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd wear two polos and then pop the collar on both polos. I never went that extreme.
Well, I feel pretty happy that I was in a school with uniform, so I couldn't.
Even in high school, wow.
Yeah. Never really got to play with fashion.
I also decided to wear my orange shirt for this episode because it kind of reminds me of like a shirt you wear in juvie. Which is where Hailey's being threatened to be sent to.
So the next point that I want to bring up, I'm watching this movie, I turn it on. She gets in trouble with the law because they're BMXing in an empty pool and then they break a window.
Which I thought was an abandoned house at first, but then they smash through the window. It's like, oh, it's like a house under construction.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the whole development was maybe being built, was my assumption. So then they go to the courtroom and the mom and dad are clearly divorced. They're on opposite sides of the courtroom. And I look at the dad and then I was about to text you and say, who the hell is this man? And then we go to the next scene and they're in the house. There's ridiculous posters on the wall. He's basically saying you have to go to this gymnastics place. They're having this like serious argument about how he's a bad dad. And I'm just staring at him like, who is this guy? And I realized it's Gary/Greg from The White Lotus.
That was wild.
I mean, that is insane to me.
Yeah. Well, and he had just done Napoleon Dynamite.
I forgot he was in that.
I think that's probably where he got to start.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And now he's, in White Lotus.
Never give up on your dreams, folks. You can be in Stick It in 2 scenes, and then you can be on The White Lotus.
As a pretty major character.
Yes, it's a very important
integral
character.
to like multiple seasons. Wow.
And now it could take almost 20 years, but don't give up on your dreams, folks. Okay. That's the next thing I want to say. What do you think about the voiceover in this movie?
It's a little cheesy.
Yeah.
Was it needed?
I don't think it really was. I think they used it for a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
Is there a voiceover in Bring It On?
I don't think so. But yeah, you mentioned Bring It On. This movie was not as successful.
Was trying to do the same thing.
You said it's the same writer.
So what do you think is the difference?
It's like missing 2 to 3 like incredible scenes. Like, cause even like the gymnastics are really impressive, but there's like nothing that really, like aside from them rebelling or doing their performances, like there's nothing like extreme.
I guess there's something about dancing or cheer. What is it? Bring It On dancing or cheer?
Cheer.
What works so well about that, in my opinion, is when the big moments happen, it's all of the characters doing something as one. Whereas in gymnastics, it is just one person. Like, even though these girls are banding together to stick it to the judges visually to represent that, it is one person doing one thing at one time.
Yeah. So the cheers are cool, but I feel like there were even scenes in Bring It On outside of just the cheerleading that are like incredibly memorable. And I guess some of that has to do with like Kirsten Dunst's character is like romantically interested in the cheer girls, the rebellious cheer girl who kind of has like a quality to Hailey. Like Kirsten Dunst is attracted to her friend's brother, and there's like this like scene where they're like brushing each other. They're not brushing each other's teeth, but they're brushing teeth and like giving like glances, and it's like really like fun. Like it's very well. And that movie, I'd say it's like a sports teen movie, and Stick is a sports teen movie, but it has like more romantic ties.
Do you think that Bring It On's a little bit more teen, young adult, and Stick It's more child, preteen?
I think so.
Teen?
Yeah.
Because this woman also, it's the writer-director, she also did Aquamarine.
Okay.
Which I definitely think is a kid's movie.
Very preteen, yeah.
And I also love that movie. So Jessica Bendinger.
Yeah.
You made a lot of movies that I like.
Yeah. Well, and Missy, the actor too, I thought she was really, really good. And I really believed her in her performance. But there's like something about Kirsten Dunst that just feels elevated. Mm-hmm. She just has like the je ne sais quoi that you can't quite put into words.
And I think there's something, I think Kirsten Dunst's an incredible act. Not that Missy Peregrine's not, but Kirsten Dunst obviously is Kirsten Dunst for a reason. And also, I think there's something about the kind of because what adjectives would you put upon Hailey's character? Like the sullen, rebellious, but
punk.
kind of obnoxious
Yeah.
behavior. Like she's very
Not
aggressively
and not as like not very self-aware.
I appreciate it within the context of the movie. But I find it hard to think that a lot of adults who didn't would find that
qualities to be
endearing.
Admired, because it's not like she like,
or not even like it's not even. It's just kind of like she's being like very juvenile in a lot of the beats.
And then what doesn't make sense is the judge like has her go on this, like I don't know how the judge rules kind of that unusual thing to have her pursue gymnastics instead of going to juvie. But then even when she drops out of gymnastics again, she meets with the judge, and the judge is like, "Oh, you don't have to go to juvie." It's sometimes just enough to have bad parents. And then she like winks at.
No, she says, so it's actually kind of moving. So there is this element of the movie that, and I wanted to ask you about what you thought about Jeff Bridges and his and Hailey's kind of coach / father-daughter-ish relationship, which I thought, especially as a kid, I really liked that. I thought it added like emotional depth to the movie.
Mm.
Yeah, basically at the earlier competition in the movie, so in the present day timeline, they do a really good job of showing Hailey experiencing a lot of like micro negative moments. Like a girl throws soda on her because she's really angry about how she messed up worlds back in the day. Her teammates think that she's tricked them into doing their hardest trick so they'll fail and she'll win. Her mom suggests that, she might get back together with the old coach. Like all these little things happen. And then she finds out that Jeff Bridges' character actually was paid a ton of money to take Hailey instead of her going to jail.
4 times what the other girls are paying, which is extreme.
So devastating, but it's especially upsetting because she's kind of stopped being so rebellious because she thinks that Jeff Bridges really believes in her. And so it's very devastating, and she tries to walk out again. And that's when they have this emotional moment in the hallway where she reveals that she left Worlds because she found out her parents' marriage was falling apart. And, she's really upset that he took money to take her on and doesn't actually care about her. And so then the next scene with the judge.
And then the mom had an affair with Jeff Bridges or the other coach?
The other coach,
okay.
Burt Vickerman. Which is
I misunderstood. I thought it was Jeff Bridges. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think I almost wish that they had done that, because I think that would have made it a little bit more adult.
Yeah.
Like if she had gotten mentorship from this man that she hated and maybe even found out in real time, but then it wouldn't really work. It'd have to rewrite the whole thing.
It wouldn't work because then that would be even horrible that Jeff Bridges is like taking more money to take on this girl of the mother that he slept with. Couldn't understand why she dropped out of Worlds. Like that, I was a little confused on that element. So
But so the thing with the judge, she gets out of it because she had to pay back restitution money for damaging property. So Jeff Bridges ends up using the money that her father paid him to pay off her debt.
Which was it? Just that one window pane that she crashed through?
I think so.
Those are expensive, but like not like. How much is a window? Like $4,000?
Well, maybe she had to pay something to the city. I don't know. I don't really. The whole legal part of this didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But then the judge says to her, like, it sounds like you should go back because you're built for this sport. And just so you know, a lot of people had jerks for parents and they end up okay. We have to stick together, implying
that the judge also had.
Yeah, which I think is actually kind of moving and sweet.
But also disturbing that the judge is swayed by personal connections on how like it worked out in this case. But what if
justice is not blind?
What if she feels a different way about somebody else? What about somebody who has good parents?
Yeah, you must go back to jail because I'm bitter. But yes, it kind of reminded me of the part in Legally Blonde where Sarah Paulson's wife, what's her name?
Sarah Paulson's in
in real life.
Oh, Maggie or Melanie or what the hell's her name?
No.
I swear it starts with an M. You got to give me that.
I don't think so.
Or a P. Peggy. Peggy McClarkson. I'll look it up. Holland Taylor.
Yes, Holland. That was like a place name. Holland Taylor. When in that movie, Elle Woods is ready to quit the law because the big attorney / professor only hired her because he thought she was hot and is hitting on her and she's devastated.
And Queer Connection, he's gay in real life.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
then
Holland is gay.
too. Oh my gosh.
Oh my
This is a
God.
gay trifecta.
It's a gay sandwich.
That's better. That's a much better joke. Because there's no third gay person.
No.
Well, Jennifer Coolidge is there. She's part of the queer community, right? She's a queer icon. Okay, there we go. And Holland Taylor overhears this in the salon, and it's revealed that she also cares about her appearance because she's at the salon. And she says, you got to go back. I forget what she says, but it's, that moment of the unexpected source of encouragement that you need. And that's what it reminded me of. But obviously in Legally Blonde, it's much more earned.
You bring up Legally Blonde, you bring up Bring It On. These are all movies with like extremely like memorable scenes, and who's to say? Like I just feel like
Yeah, I hear you.
like really memorable moments where like I feel like I can like feel myself on rewatch, like getting excited for like, oh my gosh, the scene is coming,
The scene's
the
coming.
bended snap, like I can't wait. Or the part where she reveals that it's the perm that she couldn't be able to take a shower within the time, like all those moments, or
It was you walking through the door. That will never not feel thrilling.
It's so thrilling.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, and then bringing on like the momentum, like you were speaking to, like cheerleader, it's a team sport, so yeah, they kind of like benefit from seeing everyone like function in unity. But these like just like really like exciting and thrilling moments, whereas like Stick It like doesn't quite have.
It needed the build.
It needed the
That's the thing.
build.
You're right. It's like the momentum. Yeah, there is something to that.
And you kind of like you're in on it, like their plan to stick it to the man, stick it to the man.
Yeah. Wait, usually I'm so bad at recognizing that kind of wordplay, but I think I already said it earlier. I was like, stick it to the man, and you didn't react.
Because the movie's not called Stick It to the Man, it's called Stick It. I always just wow, that's a good title.
It is a good title. But that's a good point. What you're saying is that we are in on the plan, and in Legally Blonde we're not,
No.
and in Bring It On,
it's them like competing, and you expect them to go.
You don't know what's going to happen,
and you expect them to get first place, and they end up intentionally. I'm pretty sure they like either intentionally or it's like the other team ends up getting first, and it's like not about. It's kind of like it's actually kind of told through the perspective of like the bad guys, like because they're the ones that steal from.
They're stealing the moves.
The Clovers.
Okay, I'm remembering.
But yeah, it's like not being in on the plan. It's kind of like exciting because it's like, oh, I thought you were going to do this, but this happened. How are you going to get out of it? And I feel
it's like the tension and surprise.
Yes, the tension and surprise isn't there. So I feel like if they had, that's really interesting. Yeah, like not until we're talking about it right now do I realize it was like lacking that.
I think you're really right about that because once they scratch the first time, it is surprising, but then they just keep going with it. And then yes, you're kind of wondering if the like most mean girl from the other team is going to do it too, and it's satisfying that she does, but it's really not. They've already won in their heart, so it doesn't really matter.
The stakes aren't there, so you're like not. You need, especially in a sports movie, you need like the stakes need to be there. You need to be on the edge of your seat and being like, how the fuck are they going to get out of this at the end? Like it doesn't have that. Not to say this is a bad movie, but like it doesn't have that. And I feel like without that, prevents it from rising above and becoming like one of these like classic, specifically like teen sports dramas.
I think that's true. I think that's very true and very astute from like a writing perspective. I also wonder if it suffers from like a film needs to have some kind of broad, well, I guess Legally Blonde, a broad appeal to kind of gain that broader cultural impact. And yeah, Hailey does not have a love interest. Like that romance angle really isn't there at all, which, I think it, unfortunately for better or worse, like we like to see romance on screen. You know what I mean? So the very thing that might help it be more of a queer film, kind of maybe hurts it.
Yeah. So you talking about like the universal element. Like there's something like a main character. I feel like for it to be successful and transcend just being a good movie that like a wide audience like appreciates is there has to be a quality to the protagonist that a person in the audience sees in themselves. Like, would you say? I mean, I'm sure that's not true in every case, but I feel like with Reese Witherspoon's character, with Kirsten Dunst's characters, like there's all these qualities of like whether you want to belong, whether you want to connect. Like, I feel like there's like something like universal about that. And I wonder if there's something about Hailey that isn't so, it's like harder to plug into. It's like, she's like this incredibly toned, rebellious, gymnast, beautiful person. And I wonder if there's like not like the like rebellious quality, I guess, is kind of like negative trait, but I wouldn't even say it's like that. In fact, it was like punk rock 2006. Like it
Yeah.
was like a cool, another,
Yeah.
like if anything, it just made her seem really cool.
It did. You're right. I wonder if that's another reason I just love this movie, because she just is so perfect in spite of the juvenile jokes.
Yeah. So it's like there's like not really any of like the negative aspects to her life are caused by other people, and she only experiences negative emotions, but she herself doesn't have any flaws per se.
Except that she can't really get along with other people, but she
Okay.
overcomes that pretty quickly.
But she also has like her guy friends.
Yeah.
So I guess there's like
I guess you're right that she's a very perfect protagonist.
yeah.
A very imperfect, perfect protagonist.
Yeah, because she's so perfect makes her kind of like imperfect in the eyes of the audience. It kind of like makes it accessible. I think it doesn't make her as like accessible. She's almost kind of like this like impossible person.
Yeah. Which is what drew me in a little bit as a kid, because I definitely, yeah.
But too, like, could it be you're a kid watching this, like this could be a very aspirational and also like unique character that you don't see on the screen as often. So it might seem new and fresh in that sense. As a young impressionable child, you're like kind of like, oh, this, like, I'm intrigued. Why? And like, I don't think it necessarily has to be a queer connection per se, or queerness in like an otherness that you've never really seen on screen before plugged into that area.
It kind of reminds me of, okay, there's something to not like the other girls, like a trope, like writing a character who, I'm not like other girls, and whatever that might mean.
Do you know who you're talking to? You're talking to Joe Murphy, who as a child was obsessed with No Doubt. Gwen Stefani, the lead singer, was always like, I'm not a girl's girl, I'm a guy's girl. I like to hang out with the guys. I'm in a band with all guys. I'm a punk rocker.
I'm not like the other girls.
I'm not like the other girls.
I'm not like the other girls.
Sorry, continue.
And then there's this trope, like when I was a kid reading fan fiction, everyone would say like no Mary Sue's in this story, and a Mary Sue would be like a perfect, like the character you wanted to be in the story, like a girl with blue hair who's friends with Harry Potter, you know, like just like a very perfect character, precocious character. But then there's like a backlash to this where people in fan fiction or cultural commentary have said that actually the term Mary Sue is sexist because it's only applied to female characters who stand out in certain ways. And there's nothing wrong with writing a character that stands out just because they happen to be a girl and just because people want to be like her. So it is an interesting topic, but I do think that there is an element of this to Hailey's character, for better or for worse, that you're right to point out.
Well, and I'm interested, like, is there a male equivalent, or is it that women are judged more harshly and thus I'm able to theorize it more easily than
I think that might be what it, I mean, because, for example, if you take Harry Potter, he's a special boy who saved the whole wizarding community with a special scar on his forehead. You know what I mean? Like, I think most male character, the main character is supposed to be that way.
Absolutely right, because it's supposed to kind of be, they're kind of supposed to be, it's, you know, and I think like Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls too, it's like the everyman. It's like the person that you're supposed to relate to, and they're like in this crazy world. Maybe it's so much that the Stick It world wasn't crazy enough. You know, maybe that's what it was.
They tried, like with the colors. Did you notice?
Like the vibrancy of the colors?
Like how red everything was, and then like it was all bleeding into, like they also had red like the, I don't know how to explain it.
It also just like it looked very like 2006 visually. Like it looked like I was watching like High School Musical.
You know, it really did make me reflect how we used to light things very well.
Yeah.
And now we're in a time where everything's really dark.
I miss that. It was leaning on, there were some cinematic moments in this movie, absolutely. Like, I thought a really like moving moment that was represented very visually and like dramatically is like when Hailey's on the beam, and what I thought was like what I thought was a sweat drop though.
Oh.
And then she comes up and it's a like tear coming down her face. I thought that was very like cinematic and moving.
I thought so too.
But there's something about the move. I think a lot of stuff, it's not a new concept, but a lot of streaming movies are getting rushed to get made and the lighting looks very poor. It's hard to see stuff. Even in like direct to streaming movies on Netflix have poor lighting. This movie is like very well lit, but it kind of reminds me of like a made for TV movie. Like there's not much like bold like risk taking in the like lighting design specifically. But I think that also speaks to 2006, and I think a lot of movies like kind of had that consistently
Yeah.
well lit look.
Slick look.
Yeah, it's very slick looking.
Well, okay. Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm glad you brought up the balance beam moment because it reminded me of another element of this film that I think is probably why it appeals to young queer women. And it goes back to what you were saying about the character being almost too perfect. So she's just this like beacon of strength in so many ways and kind of inhabiting a more masculine persona. But then you get to see these moments of vulnerability and femininity, like when she's crying or when she has to contend with harsher moment, like she has these emotional moments in the film. And I think there's something about the juxtaposition of the strength and the vulnerability that's very queer. Does that make sense at all?
It does, yeah. And
Anyway,
I found
side
it
note.
when she would like get emotional, even on this rewatch, maybe I was like, why? Like, I mean, maybe she just wanted to pursue TV. Maybe you can have a more balanced life that way. But I am curious why her like movie career didn't take off, because I found there was like nothing like, like the rebelliousness, like the qualities of like what her character were. I don't think were any knocks to her acting abilities at all. I thought she like acted really well.
No, not at all. Because I thought she sold it, but it was just silly. But yeah.
I do wonder why it didn't take off as much.
It's weird because the movie didn't do well critically, but it did do well, I think, at the box office. So I am kind of surprised.
But then, like, is it for queer women? It's not like I don't think of them as not emotional. Or are you speaking more to like stereotypes and like pursuing sports and trying to be like a guy? Like,
it's like putting both. It's like you don't need to pick one over the other is one
Okay.
interpretation I have. But also I think it's something like women being attracted to a strong woman and then seeing the vulnerability in the strength. Because it's not the same as being like, okay, I'm attracted to, not me, but like someone is attracted to a masculine presenting woman or someone with masculine qualities, but they're not a man, they're a woman. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
kind of, that's what I think might be appealing. Just kind of off the cuff. If anybody else has any thoughts about this out there and can put it in a more coherent package, let me know. But
because like to take on like the qualities of what society perceives as more masculine, but you like,
but it's not a man.
but you're not a man.
Yeah, and it's showcasing how gender isn't. Yeah, it's just an interesting. I kind of think it's something similar to be said on the flip side of like a man who has feminine qualities, but they're not a woman, right? You know what I mean? There's something about that I don't know. But we all have gender presentations. We all have, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's all tied together. And what makes someone attractive to people versus what makes them not attractive. And it's all tied up with how we seem. And strength is a part of that. Like, who do we see as strong? Who do we see as attractive?
Yeah.
And how does vulnerability factor into that? Because vulnerability is a very important part of relationships.
Yeah. I just saw The Surfer, which is a new movie with Nick Cage. He like returns to Australia having grown up there as a child, but he like grew up in America. He returns to his hometown beach where he runs into like a territorial gang who like doesn't allow him to surf there with his son.
Okay.
The movie overall, I think kind of failed. I didn't like it very much, but it was like very much speaking to like masculinity, and these group of locals were like for the most part like these like really intense, aggressive men, and it was like all about like you have to like prove yourself, and so they like, unbeknownst to like Nicolas Cage, they were like testing him to like prove him to see if he was worthy to like fight to find his place on the beach. And it's kind of like to like reach masculinity. And why do I see like sports being tied to like masculinity too? I think that's what's impressive about, maybe that's why like wrongfully I'm tying in like queerness to like this gymnastic movie, like this like fight to be the best in like sports I see as like more masculine, but that's not true at all. In fact, we've listed other examples of like the cheerleading movie too. It's like it's not limited to men, but there's something about like achieving your dreams that almost kind of has like a masculine quality.
It's like being really aggressive, being really ambitious, which, yeah, we all have these kind of gendered notions of what certain qualities certain qualities are, but that they're not necessarily tied to one gender, even if we might have a gendered assumption around them.
But where did we learn this from? Like, my parents never sat me down and been like, you cannot cry. In fact, I feel like my mom was
like, cry, Joe,
yes,
please.
cry. My parents love the idea of therapy. I feel like they like, for the most part, like when people are like open with their emotions. Like, where did I pick it up? And like for me personally, I'm like, I'm sure like me like knowing I was gay at a young age and feeling I had to like overcompensate and like wall off
Yes.
what I assumed was like not masculine qualities.
Yeah. I mean, I
Does it-
really do think it's culture. I mean, just kids are like sponges. You pick it up from everybody and everything. When you're a kid, you don't know anything about the world. So you're looking at everything for your templates. And it gets encoded quickly and early.
So some people see the dynamics in their parents. Some see it in school, media. Well, now, oh my God, social media.
Neighbors.
Social media is fucking. I can't even. Can you imagine having curated social media in grade school?
Thank God. I wouldn't have survived. I mean, I would have survived, but it wouldn't have been very pretty. But yeah, no, I think there's even like a way to point this out that LGBTQ plus representation or identification has grown, and that the younger generations are much more likely to identify. I don't have the percentages as being within the community, as being bi, and I really think that is tied to the fact that we have so much more media out there that shows you what it can mean to be queer, and it's not these stereotypes. There's all these different ways to be queer, and seeing that when you're younger and being in a more accepting environment, even if you don't have the accepting environment at home, or if you do, that's great. You know what I mean? It helps people recognize parts of themselves that they might not have recognized otherwise, or might not have been able to speak out about, which is why right now in the culture, and it's a little bit alarming because there's in my mind that there's a fear that we're going to lose that ground because of the cultural backlash that's happening.
And the cultural backlash, what's so like, yeah, like it's always existed, like it never went away, where I like living as like a young adult in the 2010s thinking that we were like becoming very progressive, and that for the most part, even like the most conservative minds were also becoming progressive in a way, at least like socially. But then this backlash is kind of a shock to me, and I feel kind of foolish, but it's like I didn't realize like it was so intense, and there are these ideas and there are these people that want to go back to how things were in like the 1950s, which is alarming.
Which, I believe that, sorry, too late, we can't go back is my hope. But yeah, there's definitely a strong push in the other direction. And that makes me feel sad for the kids who are younger than me. Yeah, I'm not a kid.
And who would think that Stick It would lead us on this this road to the concerns of present day 2025.
Hailey would be very proud.
This movie's almost 20 years old.
I know. In fact, it came out in April 28th, 2006.
So this is a little over 19 years old.
Isn't that wild?
That's not allowed.
I've been struggling around trying to figure out what my next video essay is going to be, my next blog. I can't figure it out. I'm like, what should it be? I don't know. I can't think of anything. There's like, I don't know what to say. And now I'm thinking I might have to do it on Stick It.
Do it.
Pariah Carey. Did you hear that joke in the movie?
No. Was this from Joanne?
Joanne, when Hailey shows up, is really annoyed that Hailey's there. She's like the worst person in gymnastics. She calls her Pariah Carey.
Oh my gosh.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Genuinely thinking, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little too clever for Joanna.
I agree. Then I wrote down giving Olivia Rodrigo, because I do feel like Hailey, with her eye rolls and just her general energy, is kind of leaning into an Olivia Rodrigo.
Well, I mean, like Avril Lavigne was big at the time, like, and Avril Lavigne kind of like jump started that, like that kind of connection of like Alanis Morissette qualities, but like punk and goth all mixed up into one.
Also kind of twee. It's Hailey doesn't fall into that, but I feel like Avril, Olivia, there's something that they're very like more bad,
rebelling,
and they're singing,
but then
they're like look really cute.
Yeah.
Which is just like a really interesting juxtaposition. Yeah. Anyway, that's for another video essay / podcast episode.
Can I just go through the soundtrack really quick?
Oh yeah.
So in Stick It, very representative of the year 2006, we have We Run This by Missy Elliott, Abracadabra by Talib Kweli,
Oh.
Beware of the Boys, Punjabi MC
Beware.
featuring Jay-Z, Fire Fire by Fanny Pack, which I thought was very catchy, Dance Commander by Electric Six, Game Time by Little Flip, don't even know who that is, Crowded Rock by Gianni Ortega, Magic Carpet, KSM, Brain Stew by Green Day. I was surprised by this needle drop. When Green Day played, I was like, oh shit, how big was the budget for this movie? New, but also by Fanny Pack. Come Baby Down, or Come Baby Come by K7. Do you know?
I don't know any of these songs.
Neither do I, but I feel like the 2000s just had so many like 2006 specific artists that like
just
even though
disappeared.
I hadn't like heard most of these songs, or maybe I don't know if they were very successful, but I just was like,
Okay.
I feel like I'm in the year 2006.
Oh my gosh.
I was
Okay,
there.
I believe you.
It transported me.
I was transported back as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I also wrote down lipstick because her mom tries to put lipstick on her and she's mad about that. Gay. Doesn't have to be gay. You can wear lipstick if you're gay. But you know what I'm saying.
But also,
gay.
like, the moment it happens is on the staircase during the meet, and the mom's like, by the way, honey, we're going to have you change coaches to the coach that I
Here's some lipstick.
cheated with you, the man that I had an affair with. Also, after giving you that devastating news, put on some lipstick. Of course, she's going to be like, fuck you. No.
Okay. And then I liked that they had the scene where the boys put on the dresses, and it's not really like done in a joking way for prom when they're in the mall. That was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just reflect for a minute. Can you imagine? It's really, I mean, I spent a lot of time studying, probably spent like a lot of time, probably not as many hours, but a lot of hours into that.
Studying.
At the sacrifice of other things, like, and other social things. So I can kind of imagine it, but I just can't imagine what all these kids do who do go to the Olympics, who put in that much time. You know what I mean? It's just so impressive. Would you ever have done that if you fell into the right sport?
I don't think so. Because again, as I told you, in high school, I loved to go home and first thing, put on Reaper on my iPod video. Yeah, I don't have like the discipline for that kind of thing. And like I did like soccer. I wasn't good enough for my high school soccer team, but I did select soccer. And I would just like show up to, I like wasn't that motivated. I just was like motivated enough to like not perform horribly.
Yeah, I was motivated by fear when it came to sports at a certain point in time of not messing up. Like I was happy to be on the bench. Yeah. I was like, don't put me in. I don't want to mess up.
Well, I did not like being on the bench because like you dragged my ass out here. I better be out in the field and get some exercise in. That's how I felt.
I would like cross my fingers and hope to be on the bench. And then one time at practice, everyone was like totally goofing off and being really bad. And I was the only person listening. This was in high school. And my coach, he was a nice man named Pete. He noticed, and I saw him noticing, and I thought to myself, oh no, he's noticed this. I don't want him to notice that I'm listening and paying attention. I don't want him to single me out at all. And then we came to the game the next day, and he like calls out the roster. I'm like, damn it, because of course he put me in to start, and I was so devastated. And then I ended up scoring 2 goals.
Oh my gosh.
2 goals. I usually did nothing on the field. I would like pray. I would pass the ball away from me as fast as I could.
Did you apologize to the goalie? I'm sorry for scoring on you. I'm so sorry.
No, but I feel like I could have done that. No, I mostly, both times I scored, I was like, oh no, does this mean I'm going to have to start again?
My fear, like, I didn't want to like stick out in any way. So my fear in that situation, like if I was the only one paying attention and my coach noticed that, my concern is they'd be like, guys, like, why can't you listen? Like Joe's listening. Like that would have been humiliating. That I would not have liked. And
that would have been awful.
And then everyone would have been annoyed that I like made them look bad. I would have hated that. How did you feel after you scored those 2 goals? Like, did it motivate you? I
think that I was, of course, like happy I had scored, but I was afraid that it was going to mean that I was going to have to continue to start. Because I kind of thought it was a fluke. I was like, this isn't, especially after the first one, I was like, this is not going to happen again. They're going to think I'm really good. but I'm actually just inconsistent.
You didn't like starting because like, is it like you want to get a lay of the land? You want to like know who the opponents were? You want to see what
I just didn't want to be on the field.
at all. So it didn't even matter who was starting.
This is in high school specifically. I just was very afraid. I was on a team and like when I made the team as a freshman, only 2 freshmen made the team, and all of the older girls just really intimidated me, and they were kind of had like an aggressive energy that I did not have in my interpersonal. Like I feel like I could be aggressive on the field, but off the field, that's not how I was. So I just felt very scared all the time. And then I would be very afraid of making a mistake. And because I was inherently younger, hadn't played on that level yet, I think I probably did make some mistakes during practice or whatever. And whatever the reaction was, I think just really scared me. And so then from then on out, throughout the rest of my time, I was just very anxious about doing something wrong that was going to incite the disappointment of my team. Even though I should tell you, we lost most of our games. So I don't know why I was so afraid of this.
Was it your choice to do soccer? Like, did you want to be involved in extracurricular activities?
I did want to do a lot of extracurricular activities. I had a lot of activities I wanted to do. Sports took up a lot of time.
They do. They take up so much time. I can't imagine going to school until
Doing
like
that.
3 o'clock, and it's like you have to do your homework, but also you have practice.
Until 6 or 7. And if it's a game, it's even later.
And like maybe not just practice, and then if you're doing clubs or activities or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then I would go home and I would, I was a very diligent student, so then I would stay up really late. That's why I'm a night owl to this day. So I would say like I did want to do sports, but I also felt like I didn't have a choice. Like in the sense that I felt like I was supposed to do sports. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't do them, that was bad.
Because I think we both grew up in the same neighborhood. I do think there was like this with my family and your family, and maybe it was like the community there being raised in that environment. There was like this idea to be successful, you couldn't just be smart, you had to be well-rounded. And so there was an emphasis, you couldn't it wasn't like, which I think like that can have like positive and negative traits, because it's like it's a lot of responsibility to like be academic and pursue sports, whereas I feel like it was like maybe like in the 90s and early, like before, like previous generations, it was a little more you choose like one track, whereas like now it's like more about being well-rounded. But yeah, it's like it wasn't even like I would try to wiggle out of a lot of things, and I didn't do a lot of things, but I always remember like, and I also played soccer too throughout high school. It was like this wasn't there was no negotiating about this. Like it's like
it was like I
need to do this. I have to do something. And I think it was probably my parents being too. It's like you have to do some sports because you like need to be out there running around. You can't just be watching TV all day. But I mean, look at me now.
And you need to like be part of the group. Yeah, definitely. And like I did enjoy it when I was younger. It was specifically in high school that I didn't enjoy it as much. But I also think there's something about for girl sports too. It's like I'm so lucky to be born in the time I was born in, because I don't know when Title IX and all that happened, but I feel like if we'd even been born in like the 80s or 70s, like I don't know how common it was for girls to do, you know what I mean? Like there's something about how it was like you're a girl, you should do sports. Being a sporty girl is like a very, very good thing. And I don't know how to explain it. There's something about it, even as we're saying it's masculine.
But I mean, my mom grew, and your mom also has a bunch of, they both have a lot of siblings.
They do.
They all did sports of some type. They all had to do also something artistic was a requirement. And they like, a lot of them were like in high school. Like my mom was in high school in the late 70s. She did softball. She did piano. I don't think through high school, but there was like, now that I mentioned, it was like there's the way she was raised too. I think it was like this idea that you need to be well-rounded. And my grandparents had like an appreciation for not just doing well at school, but being athletic and also being creative. So maybe it's also kind of like a generational thing.
That's true. I know my mom did swim team, but I don't really know about my aunts and uncles. I don't know how much sports were valued. I could be very wrong, and I apologize to my family if they all did sports and really it was a big part of their life. I kind of feel like it wasn't.
Participating in sports.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, like joining teams. I think they all did different activities. Like I think they did things, but I'm just saying I feel like the culture of sports in our generation, it was so it was like you got to do it or else you're kind of the weird kid who's not doing sports.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't really speak to like previous generations, but I think there is something about team sports that I imagine is important for a child's development in some way.
I think so. I think it's like But I think you can get it elsewhere too. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's good. Teams are a really good way to do it, but there's other kinds of teams
Yeah.
that don't require you to throw a ball.
It just kind of like knocks out getting exercise in
Well, that's
and
true.
also
That's true.
social bonds and
Yeah.
learning how to exist
And
in a community.
Discipline and showing up and not just throwing in the towel and et cetera, et cetera.
Anyway, that was our section on
Sports.
sports.
This is the podcast about sports.
We are now a sports
There's
podcast.
a lot more to say about sports and queerness and coming of age, but
There are.
we'll save that for another time.
We could do better like Beckham.
That's a really good one.
I haven't
to
seen
do,
that
and
since childhood.
I actually did a presentation on Bend It Like Beckham for a queer media class. Maybe that should just be my next video essay. But anyway, we should definitely do that. That one, there's a whole theory about Bend It Like Beckham that it was actually supposed to be written that they end up together, the two women,
I'd believe it.
that they changed it.
There was chemistry.
But
Not
it's
that they
all
need
rumor.
not that it needs to lead to a romantic connection, but there was definitely chemistry between the two
Absolutely.
leads.
Absolutely. I'll dig up my presentation and then we can.
And also, doesn't Keira Knightley also have like an incredibly like ripped abs in
Yes,
Bend It Like Beckham?
She does. Yes.
Wow.
She does. I remember.
That should be your video essay. All of
You know,
the ripped
honestly, what I remember
abs.
about seeing, we're giving you a little preview of what this episode will contain. I remember seeing that movie in the theater, loving it, but also remembering there was something gay about it and feeling like there was like something like really negative about that. And I watched it as an adult and I realized what it was. And so when we talk about it on our podcast, not this episode, I'll tell you all about that.
If you remember.
Teaser. No, I remember. Well, I'll remember.
Okay.
That's baked into my brain. I know that one time I said I'd remember something that I didn't, but this time I will remember.
The other thing that we don't remember that we were supposed to remember. We don't remember, but we remember this.
If you could follow that logic, I'm impressed with you.
All right. Queer Cinema Catchup is the podcast talking about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us where?
On YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. You can email us at queercinemacatchup@gmail.com. You can find us on Letterboxd. Please check it out.
Check it out.
And stick it.
Stick it and
No?
comment with like sports that you participated with in childhood and what your
Mhm.
thoughts are on team sports. And you know, we love a little conversation, a little
We do.
a little
I
chat
love-
that's relevant to the movie we're talking about.
I love going down memory lane. I'd go down memory lane every day
We kind of
with anyone.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.